So, Lego 2K Drive. The store page for this game says, "Welcome to Bricklandia, home of a massive open world Lego driving adventure," which is already a lie, it's not fully open world. "Race anywhere, play with anyone, build your dream rides and defeat a cast of wild racing rivals for the coveted Sky Trophy." In Lego 2K Drive, your awesome transforming vehicle gives you the freedom to speed seamlessly across riveting racetracks, off-road terrain and open waters. Explore the vast world of Bricklandia, show off your driving skills and build vehicles brick by brick. They say this is the ultimate Lego driving experience. You race for the Sky Trophy. There is open world exploration, you can unleash your creativity, and you can play together at home and online. So, this review is done on the Xbox Series X. It's going to take you, I'm going to say, between 6 and maybe 8 hours to complete this game. It took me around 6 hours 40 minutes with a little bit of exploration in there and playing a little bit of the side content. The file size on the Xbox Series X for this game is sat at around 9 gigabytes. The game is going to cost you anywhere from £60 up to £105, which is the edition I bought, and I believe that's the equivalent of $120 for a game that will last you no longer than 8 hours. And then in terms of performance and how the game ran smooth the whole way through, besides a couple of minor frame drops during cutscenes. So, jumping into this review, the moment you get into the game, it's going to present you with a pop-up telling you that you need a 2K account in order to play online. The developers behind this game, this quote-unquote open-world racing game, they are known for NBA and WWE, so they make basketball and wrestling games. They've now gone to open world racing games. But after you've set up your 2K account, if you want to play online and stuff, you can then play story, cup series, race or mini game, and you can also play split screen. That's everything this game has to offer, and the story is what I played. The story is what this review is about. You're not going to really get any more than about 8 hours worth of gameplay unless you are going out and you're doing every single different event available in the story, which, trust me, is going to become incredibly tedious and it's really not worth it at all. And when you jump into the story, the game starts you off with a tutorial that's it's a really, really basic tutorial, but it shows you a transformation. You go from asphalt driving to off-road driving, and then it introduces you to the game world and it explains what a couple of things do. After that, you then get to pick your character, and you're told that you can change your look in the options menu if you go to the loadout. And as soon as you've gone through the basics of the game, you are going to be taught how to drift. It's very, very easy to do. As you're driving, you just hold down your brake, and even if you're going in a straight line, the game still registers that you are drifting. And it doesn't really slow you down too much either. One good thing in this game, because there are a few good things like sprinkled out here and there, one of the good things is that the semi-open world is very destructible. I say a semi-open world because if it's an open world experience, you expect everything to be together, and this game is split up into different game worlds. Like, I'm going to call them game worlds. There are 4 different, basically, islands that you can explore. So it's not fully open world. But what they have created is very destructible. In every single island you go to, you can pretty much smash and bash everything. You can even crash into, like, civilians, NPCs or whatever, people. You can smash into them and they go flying. I think that's really, really good. And the transition from the on-road to off-road and then to boat vehicles is quite cool at first. It does, like, wear off, like basically saying, "Oh, I'm having, like, quite a bit of fun. That was really cool." That wears off very, very fast. And then you also have these events called on-the-go events. They're tiny little events. They're scattered around the islands and stuff. And they let you earn some XP and some rewards and stuff, like some money that you can spend in the shop. In Lego 2K Drive, you are free to explore, or you can take on your very first race straight away, which is going to let you drive a McLaren. And it's also going to teach you a little bit about the power-ups in the game, which are actually quite fun to use. You get things like spiky balls you can chuck in front of you, rockets, spider webs, and there are other things in there that will help you beat the competition. When you are changing your loadout, you can change all styles of your vehicles, and each one has different stats, being top speed, acceleration, handling, health, and weight. You will notice as you go through the game, the stats are not great for any vehicle really. When you get to the final class being A class, it just gets worse and worse because the differences are so big. But yeah, there are stats and stuff to the vehicles in this game. And it's actually recommended that you smash into stuff, because smashing into things is going to refill your boost meter. If you've taken damage from an enemy power-up, it's going to repair your car. And as well as the drifting, you can also do a quick turn, which is way more helpful in this game by just tapping X or holding it down for however long you need to do that quick turn. And I really like that they have quick turn in the game, because the handling feels very, very stiff in most of the vehicles you are going to drive. And then a little bit later in the game, you are introduced to garages. They are the fast travel points. So when you start in Turbo Acres, the very first island, you are going to just have one garage that is there. And then as soon as you move over to the second island, you are going to have to fast travel there via a garage. So you can't just drive to the second island, the third or the fourth. From Turbo Acres, the very first island, you have to fast travel to another island. But on the other islands, there are a few different garages, so you don't have to always explore and go from one end of, or one side of an island to another. And when you win a main race against a rival, you are going to win a flag. They call it a checkered flag in the game. These are going to be used to get you into the Sky Grand Prix, which is the final showdown in the game, and you also win new vehicles every time you beat a rival for the very first time. The whole point of this game is to build up your checkered flags, go to the Sky Grand Prix, win it, and you are the champion of Bricklandia. You're the best driver out there. And when it comes to new races and new rivals, you need to be a certain level, or that's what the game tells you. And when I was level 2 in the second island of the game, I unlocked races that I needed to be level 4 to actually race in. So you do need to go around and do on-the-go events and quests and other things like that to level yourself up. But I only ever noticed the level being on the icon of the race on the world map once. So I think for the majority of the game, I was always at the right level I should have been. And as I said at the start of this review, I was not doing too much of the side content, not doing too much exploration and stuff, and I still managed to keep up for the most part. There was one part in this game which was really, really annoying, and it was purely put in the game just to pad out the gameplay length, which is ridiculous considering it's around a 7-hour title. So upon beating rivals in races, as well as getting their car for the very first time, as well as winning a checkered flag, you are also going to start unlocking perks, and the perks are basically put into 3 tiers. You get your C class, B class and A class, and the perks get a little bit different as you are progressing through the tiers, or progressing through the classes that are in the game. In C class, you'll get things like health boosts and stuff for your vehicle, and when you get into A class, you're going to get perks like double jump. And as I said, you can find garages all over the different areas of the game and stuff. You can build your own vehicles in this game. I didn't do too much with it. I just stuck a couple of bricks and then took them back off because my car was far too heavy. When you are building vehicles, you need to keep in mind that weight is a factor of racing in this game. It's going to affect your stats. It's going to make your car heavier, feel a lot more sluggish to drive, and you do not want your vehicles too heavy in this game. And Lego 2K Drive will also give you quests and stuff, as I mentioned. And in these quests, all you've really got to do is look around a certain area for a character, or there are some where you eventually have to use the jetpacks to smash down these UFOs and save the cows, and it's just silly little things in the game, just silly little quests and events and everything. But upon completion of the quest, you are going to get rewards and XP that will help you level up, and they can be found along with events and stuff by just exploring the world. So if you unlock a garage in the top left corner of one of the islands, you go to the bottom right. By the time you've got there, you probably would have found about 10 on-the-go events, a few different quests and stuff. And if you are level locked away from progressing the story, then just do some of these events, get them over and done with, and then you can make your progress. So, at first sight, first impression, I thought these little mini-games that the game gives you, like this robot invasion thing, you have to defend 3 generators from robots that are trying to destroy them. I thought they were quite cool. But then you start to realise that there's a lot of stuff in this game that just repeats itself. It's like they built a third of the game and then just slapped on that Control-C, Control-V twice, and built up the full game by just copy-pasting a load of things. It gets boring, tedious, it's frustrating. But there are a couple of these mini-games like type things where like one of them you have to do this robot invasion thing and save generators. The other one that you really get to do in the game, like pretty much the only other type you get to do in the game, is where you have to save people from these weird robots, and eventually it goes up to clowns. Like it starts off as, I can't even remember what they're called, but basically you're saving people from these robots, you take them to a safe place, you go back, you get more people whilst defeating the robots, and then in the final variant of it, you are doing the same thing but with these like robotic clowns or whatever the game wants to call them. And then I also, as well as a lot of other stuff in the game, I started getting frustrated with the on-the-go events because some of them are like actually quite challenging when they really do not need to be, especially when you think about the audience that's going to be coming into this game. You are going to have events where you are needing to drift 1100 meters in like 10 seconds and stupid things like that. Some of them, you have to be so precise and specific with exactly where you're driving or you're never going to get it done. The time limits on a lot of the on-the-go events are stupid. But as well as all of that stuff, if you are into your exploring, not just doing the events and the story, there are secret rainbow bricks and everything like that you can find. It pads out the exploration to the open world. There's not much really to it. I wouldn't even say they're collectibles. I would say you're just going and finding more things through exploration. There's absolutely no need to do it in this game. And as I said, all you're doing in this game is taking part in the races. Your goal is to earn enough flags. You need to get 24 flags, then you can make it to the final showdown. But your goal is to get enough flags so that you can take part in the different brick arenas. There are 3 of them. It's just like a mini showdown on the lead up to the boss. And then you're just taking down the toughest racers to earn your spot in that final showdown. And like the on-the-go events, the quests, it starts to get repetitive and they start actually getting more annoying than anything else. I'm going to say only a couple of hours into the game, but if you're about 2.5 hours into the game, you're basically a third of the way through it already, which is ridiculous for the price you are paying for this title. And once I hit level 10, I unlocked a B class, and if I remember correctly, it's level 20 for A class. And hitting these different classes is supposedly going to make you faster and make the races harder, but give you cool bonus stuff too. And yeah, again, you don't really notice it. If anything, you feel as though you've gone from 58 miles an hour up to 59 when you're in B class, and then up to 60 when you're in A class. There's really not that much of a difference. And when you move up to B class, as I've briefly explained, the perk system becomes a little bit more advanced, from your basic acceleration boosts and stuff to things like one of the perks which is called Street Justice, where you'll deal more damage using your street car, but you'll deal less in your off-road and water vehicles. And then I believe there's also one where you deal more damage in your off-road vehicle but less in your street car and your water one. And one thing which took a few hours to realise, I was trying it, but just finding the sweet spot for it was really tough. If you hold down the brake and the accelerator at the same time on the launch of a race, so when you're starting a race, you will get a quicker launch. But as I said, finding that sweet spot, yeah, I think I got the couple of perfect launches throughout the entire game. And then, I'll show you another one of the variants of the events that you get. Basically, as you're working through getting your checkered flags, you're going to be stopped at certain points before, say for an example, there are 3 new races that have just popped up. Before you get to do those 3, you're going to get a call coming over the radio from someone that's saying, robots are invading, they're taking down the generators, blah, blah, blah. And you have to go into these events before you are allowed to do the races. So it's something that kind of temporarily blocks your progress in the game. And I thought I would just show you extra footage of these events because there are 3 variants to the events, and there are only 2 different events in the whole game. You've got Robot Invasion, and then you have the one where the clowns are trying to destroy people and you have to save them. And yeah, I think you get the picture at this point. There's really not a lot to this game at all. And throughout your playthrough, you're going to get quite a lot of different vehicles rewarded for winning races and helping people out and stuff. And I'm going to say there are some really cool vehicles in the game, even if some of them are only cool for their looks. And one thing I'm going to point out as well, I bought the very biggest edition of this game for £105 for the Lamborghini Royale. And yeah, I never once used that vehicle because the stats just ruin it. I wanted something that's got a decent acceleration, a decent top speed, because you're racing, and none of these bonus cars or anything like that are going to come with stats that are worth like you wasting your time actually putting these vehicles into a race. They're more for just, I feel like driving around, doing a couple of on-the-go events, and I don't even think you'll be successful with some of the events with some of the cars in the game. But yeah, it's more just for the exploration. But there are some really, really cool vehicles. One of the ones, like one of my favourites in terms of actually driving it, is the spider water glider that you get. I forget what it's called, but this thing is so cool. It's got its 8 legs around it. The legs can actually fall off as you get hit and stuff. But it's by far the easiest and probably the fastest water glider that I actually obtained throughout the whole game, and I unlocked it way before the end. And when I said there are things in this game to pad out the gameplay length, even though it's still a really short game, after you complete the second Grand Brick event, which is one of them mini showdowns that we spoke about, after you complete the second one, at the time I was level 15, the game goes, oh, make sure that you are available to drive A-class vehicles, or make sure you're available to race in A-class. Yeah, you're level 15 at the moment. Go and drive around, do random, repetitive, tedious, boring stuff in the semi-open worlds that we've created, and get yourself to level 20 before you're actually allowed to make any more progress. So it carts you off. At the start, you go from level 2 to level 4 with one of the races to kind of introduce you to the leveling system, and then later on it goes, no matter what level you are, reach level 20 or you make 0 progress in the story from here. And something I found really, really late into my playthrough, but you do get special vehicle types. You can get them as rewards for doing different events and quests and stuff, like what I got here. I got the lawnmower. This can remove the weeds ahead of races. The weeds will really, really drastically slow you down in races. And ahead of time, if you know the circuit or whatever, you can go and you can use your lawnmower to get rid of the weeds. But yeah, and I unlocked it so late into the game, it was pointless. I'm not going to sit there going around looking for the weeds that I can destroy with the lawnmower. It's a good addition to have special types of vehicles, but there are not too many of them. I mean, there could be more if you're doing all of the exploration, the quests, the on-the-go events and stuff. But through a basic playthrough where you're not necessarily rushing, but your main focus is the story, with only a little bit of the side content, you're not going to come across too many special types of vehicles. And then, yeah, I thought I would just pop it up on screen to show you that I beat the game. I'm absolutely baffled that it took less than 7 hours for me to complete this after the amount of money I spent on it. And I knew there would be something wrong the moment I saw that 9GB file size. And there we go. So I'll briefly pop up the credits on screen as well so you can see those. Yeah, I ended up skipping those, and it just chucks you back into Bricklandia, and it says, oh, but your story's not over. People want to see you do the sky race again, and all this sort of stuff. But that is everything I've got to tell you about the game. You get different vehicles in this game. They're different styles. You can build your own. There's different events, but it's not a good game in any capacity for the amount of money you're going to spend. And I've already seen, looking on the internet, that the game is getting 7 out of 10s and 8 out of 10s, and I think that all comes down to game journalists' delusion. There is no way this game is any higher than, I'm going to say, a 5.5 out of 10. That's not a rating from me. I'm saying if you're rating it higher than a 5.5, then yeah, you've got to start playing other games. This is not that game. The rating is not warranted if you're giving it higher than a 5.5. So as I said, there are 4 different islands in the game that you'll get to experience as you make progress through the game with a bunch of repetitive rubbish chucked in them to pad everything out. And throughout the entire game, I never really felt the need to change my car, and they chuck quite a few different cars at you, and most of the stats on cars are really, really bad for racing. Lots of cars are heavy, which is not ideal for anything at all. And these are just like my final notes, the conclusion. I know I've mentioned a couple of these things throughout the review. Main story races in this game feel very, very scripted. You are normally mid-pack in the first lap or two, and by the end of the race you're very close to the front, and you normally end up winning every single race by a second or two unless you mess up, I'd say within the last lap. And this game, these developers, the publishers, have the nerve to chuck a season pass and a premium currency into the title as well. The premium currency is only good for one thing, and that is that it can be converted into normal game currency so that you can buy stuff in the store, which is an absolute joke because you are already spending a full AAA price on this title. The majority of quests in this game are just fetch errands, and some of them have just a bit of a different style to them. So you'll have your actual quest where you, oh, look for this person, bring this person back to me. So you literally drive around this area that gets highlighted in a green box. You drive around, you find the person, you pick them up, you take them back to the person that gave you the quest. That is quest done. Then there are other ones where you've got, like, this person's got 4 cows that have been abducted by UFOs, and you need to use these ramps and stuff to activate the jetpacks in order to hit the UFOs and get the cows, and then the cows are going to start going mad, and you've got to bring them back to the quest giver, and they're all just fetch errands. That's every single quest in this game, pretty much, and the on-the-go events are terrible. I would say the quests being fetch errands are more enjoyable than the on-the-go events. They started really annoying me the more I did, because some of them are just stupid, and some are even really, really difficult for absolutely no reason. The game just gets you to keep going over and over the same few opponents again and again throughout the story as well. There's probably say no more than about 10 to 12 different rivals that you race throughout the entire game. The only thing is you're going to race on their circuit 3 times if you want to go through the C, the B and the A class variants of the races, which don't really get much more difficult. They just, I don't know, there's not really much to it. The difference in the classes of cars in this game, or the classes that you're racing in or whatever. And that's throughout the story. Even the final event, though, that's just another race against another opponent. There is nothing to it, nothing special about that race besides a new track that you've never raced on before. And I absolutely hate how they padded out the already short gameplay length by forcing you to get to level 20 to continue going through the story. As I said throughout the review, I was level 15 at that point, so it took a little while. I think it was around 45 minutes to an hour or something. It took a little while for me to make enough progress, and I also ended up completing the game at what I believe was level 23, so it wasn't that far away from the end of the game, which is more than likely their reasoning for padding it out. They built the entire game. Players get to the max level for getting the story done, so players reach, as an example, level 23, but they thought, oh, players are getting here far too quick, or they're going to when the game releases. So when they get to level 15, let's slow down the gameplay loop, let's force them to get to level 20, and then they can continue for the final 3 levels worth of XP that you're going to get from the remaining races in the game. It's kind of like what Anthem did years and years ago. They created an entire mission purely just to make the gameplay last longer. And this game is targeted towards kids. It can definitely be fun in some areas, but the more you play this one, the longer you play, the more you are going to get annoyed with it. And not only that, it's targeted for kids. It's a Lego game, so a lot of people are going to be like, oh, it's a kid's game anyway. But with that, some of the on-the-go events are quite tough. So they've made a game that's more catered towards children, but they've made the difficulty even difficult for some adults. And I'm going to end the review on this one. So I really, really did enjoy the transition between vehicle types, especially at the start of the game. It felt like something fresh, but it did wear off rather quick. And I like the different vehicles and stuff you can get in the game, but there are so many things that are annoying, too repetitive, and just straight up lazy. And with the price of this game, I think this is a game that should be avoided until you can pick it up at least half price. I would say possibly even 60 to 70% off, because there is absolutely nothing in this game that warrants its full price whatsoever, not even the Lego branding. And on that note, we are going to leave the video there. If you enjoyed it, leaving a like is appreciated. If you wish to support me further as a creator, there are links in the description. Let me know your thoughts about the video in the comments. And if you want to watch more, you can click the video on screen. All support on the channel is greatly appreciated, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.